Howdy, folks. I'm Rebecca Jolly, the Jolly Alchemist, here today with a neutrino forecast that's telling the future for the 12th of October, Sunday, 2025. So, we are moving into the fifth line of our grouping around Intuition 57. And with the fifth line, we move into the left angle. So the left angle is the the PR department, as Ra calls it. Looking outward, dealing with the other, bringing solutions, being projected on. And in this case, we are projecting on 57 line 5. That is progression. Development based on intuitive evaluation. All right, so in progression, and it is called progression in both sources I checked. It's about being able to recognize forms and patterns that allow the collective to survive. So in 5 and 6, we're definitely dealing with collective energies. We're talking about, the world looking in on the fifth line and looking for solutions from the fifth line. And then that sixth line, of course, just living it, being the role model, the perfect example of it, without actually needing to tell anyone about it or talk about it. They're just doing it, just being it naturally. Kind of like the second line does, but the second line has no insight on itself. And the sixth line has been there, done that in every way. They're really looking into what's next. When it comes to the cross of the clarion itself, it's kind of interesting. Ra has some stories about that because he is a first quarter clarion. So there's only 2 versions of the clarion. The first one has shock at the top. And so they're very much the shocking tellers. They're the ones, if you go ask them, they will tell you just because you ask. You asked for it? Okay, I'm going to blow you away with it. Whereas these 57s, it's switched like that. These 57s are more what Ross says. They'll tell you, but they're not going to volunteer the information. So they're not going to be like that. Which line was it? The third line? Which one was it we were talking about? It was either the third or the fourth line that they'll hold it in for 50 years. Which one was it that was so interesting? Yeah, I didn't write down that specific story. But these ones will not hold it in for 50 years. They will just tell you about it. But you have to ask them about it, so there's that. We have some interesting people here. We might as well get into it. Hannah Arendt, Alistair Crowley, very interesting. H.W.L. Papaji, Carl Weddell, Paul Simon, hey. Sacha Baron Cohen, what a great clarion he is. Nancy Kerrigan, Roger Moore, Margaret Thatcher, Marcello Peregrino, Usher. Very interesting. So we have some nice stand-up examples of our intuitive clarions. They just go around living their intuition sort of naturally and not necessarily needing to tell other people about it. Okay, alrighty then. The Earth activation for this mission is 51, line 5. That's instinct. Ra calls it symmetry. Instinctive adaptation in times of shock. The reason Ra calls it symmetry is because he's saying by the time you've got to the 5th line, these people have learned how to ride the shock waves, and that means understanding the nature of how that symmetry works so that you can go with the flow and avoid devastation and have sort of an idea of the balance of the things, how the wave shocks you and rides afterwards. So I thought, oh, okay. He also went into a lot of detail talking about will and courage, which are in the 51st gate. Okay, that's right there, leading towards the G center. And and how this is the willpower and ego center, but the actual ego isn't really meant to be in 51. He says really what happens there is if you have an experience that robs the ego, then you're open to having the fullness of that gate, that channel. It's only in humility, it's only in the willpower or in the courage that we see the things that we like in that competitive arena. As soon as a competitor of really any kind gets their ego involved, then you're dealing with something that's not quite so pretty. That's, oh, it's me, it's all mine, I did it, rather than being like the general who gets out of a war and kisses the ground knowing that he's alive by luck, by the will of the gods, certainly by nothing he himself did, because you can see, it's easy to see how many other people did not make it. So he's really making that distinction there, in that you can go far as long as you remove the ego out of all of that equation when it comes to the 51st gate. I thought that was kind of interesting there, because he himself carried both these designations, the fifth line. Of course, in his case, they were flipped, but and he had quite a large ego himself. So what else did he have? He did also have the great taming power, though, and the 40. So ego is in both of those. So, all right, well, that's that. So in our mission today, just to overview the whole entire thing, it's really about bringing in practical provisions for the survival of the collective by helping the collective understand how to ride the waves of shock and avoid devastation. So, okay. I always have just this little happiness whenever I find a clarion, but it's not because I've ever had any awesome experience with a clarion. I just think it's a great idea to be this ringing bell. If I was a bell, I'd ring in the morning, kind of an energy there. Speaking of which, our song is not If I Was a Bell, I Would Ring in the Morning. Didn't think of that one. What I picked was Water Flow by Klyne, Klyne, because it's all about recognizing the patterns and going with the flow and, easing through the shock that way. So I thought, okay, fine. But definitely if I had a bell, maybe we'll do that tomorrow. Anyway, our moon. Our moon starts off at 12, line 4. That is motivation, the ability to spread a spirit of change. Now, of course, that 12 is cautious communication, so it will blend with the 22 down here to give the whole world a bit of a few hours of activation talking about our feelings. So this morning we'll be able to talk about our feelings. Then all day we will have the energy of the pioneer, this 2551. And then, of course, we will also all day have the we'll be able to talk about our bodies and our well-being, physical well-being. And that's because of 2057, which is the improviser. And what I always say? A flash of inspirations are possible with that one. Okay, so those are our connections going through the chart today. And it's because we started off talking about the moon, which makes one of those connections. Then the moon will move to 15. That's the love of all humanity in its very vast, flexible nature. Then it goes to 52. That's the gate of concentration or mountain stillness there, really being able to sit and look at something. So today's a good day to take a test if you have a choice. You'll get some of that nice concentration coming to you from the neutrino stream. Although, really, by the time you get trapped into a room with 20 or 30 other people, somebody in there's got the concentration, so everybody can theoretically concentrate anyway. Interesting. Let's see. After 52, then we will start to get a little bit of provocation energy from this 39 that will reach into tomorrow's energy and probably be tomorrow's moon activation for us. Mercury is starting off at 44, line 1. Where was it yesterday? 28. I see. So it moved from 28 into 44, which is kind of interesting because Mars is just moving out of 44 and into its next one. So we have sort of a continuous going of this 44 energy, which I guess we'll be going through that all over again. 44-1, conditions, structuring the collective through conditions. It's this gate here, 44, coming to meet, collaboration, situational awareness, really being able to understand what's in the situation and what's going on with people and their needs. All right, it'll also move to 44-2. That's management, the purposeful development of collective structures. This is really about organizing people and recognizing the patterns, who can be helpful and who's best in which situations. So that's 44, and that's what Mercury is going through now. Our Venus energy is at 6, line 6, which we looked at yesterday, being to bring about peace, the end of conflict with sensitivity and reason. That's in the 6th line here, or 6th gate here. And it does have a down arrow today, which is when bringing about peace, the urge to dictate unacceptable conditions due to a lack of emotional clarity. And when I saw that, I thought to myself, doesn't that just sound like some shit some guys would get up to in a room trying to hammer out something big like world peace? And they go, no, we must all have carrots for breakfast. No, we must have carrots for breakfast. And the whole thing gets hung up on this carrots for breakfast minute. And all the women are sitting at home going, world peace? What about that one? Did we forget that one? The carrots were so important? Yeah, that. So, very interesting how that sort of thing works. But when it's done with 6, we will be moving into one of my favorite gates, 46. 46 is the gate of luck, serendipity, love of the body, being in the right time, in the right place. So 46, line 1 is being discovered, dedication in obscurity that is discovered. So if you're looking to be discovered, today is a very good day to put something in motion, to walk in front of the producer, or to suddenly bring your idea that you've been working on to the boss. There's a lot of this good being in the right time and right place energy going on today. Of course, that happens best when we're doing our passions, when we're doing the things that really, really drive us and make us happy. So, I skipped over the nodes today, as I am wont to do, and because they've been so stable for so long, why do we talk about them over and over again? They've been at 22.2 and 47.2 forever, and they've been in and out of retrograde, but today they finally will retrograde out of the 2nd line and into the 1st. So I thought, well, shit, we should cover that real quick. So 22, line 1 is subordination, the ability to accept a subordinate role. That's what Ra called the 2nd-class ticket. And it's okay to have a 2nd-class ticket if you accept it, if you're fine with it. All right. It's all part of being sensitive to listening and communicating with others, because it's in this channel of the communicator, the 1222 there. Very mood-oriented gate. And then 47.1 is taking stock of what causes hardship, specifically mental hardship, because that 47 is all the way up here, and that's trying to make sense of the confusion that's coming in from the crown there. So we have foundational moods and making sense going on in the nodes. So that's very nice to see. We'll have in 20 years or so a whole batch of people being grown up who are not only okay with taking a subordinate role, but will also be very interested in taking stock of the new world and seeing what we have and figuring out what it takes to make things work. I think this 22 line 1 is a great thing to have when you get into mediation. And I certainly hope that the changes that are coming in the future will be made with mediation rather than with weapons. Don't you think that's nice? Yeah, I think we've had enough weapons. So, we've had our connections, our nodes, our song, our people, the tie, the clarion tie. I thought, oh, let's have these little fun dragons as clarions because they're golden like bells and they can be sharp and shocking, but they also move towards intuition and knowledge of the knowledge of secrets and that sort of thing. So I thought, okay, that can be our clarion tie. So that is it for today. Come back tomorrow where we will talk about that 6th line of the clarion. There's a little bit of a little bit more to talk about with the actual cross itself when it comes to the 6th line. Ra had some interesting things to say about that specifically. So until then, we're done for today. Come back tomorrow. Ciao.